Hey guys, I'm gonna start by saying that this build is just too fast for me. I don't know, I can feel my brain not being able to keep up to this build. Maybe I'm just not used to this, but the fact is still the same that I could not get the full power out of this build. And boy, does it have a lot of power. So it is actually a pretty cheap build, around 1 exalt, maybe a bit more. But if you play it right, if you time your buffs correctly and position yourself correctly, you can do over 5 million DPS. And this is actually the third time I'm trying to do something with Vulcanus. And I would say this is the most successful build out of those three. And in the past I was so frustrated with Berserker builds that I even said that was the last time I did a Berserker build ever. So this is actually the last time, before the last time I'm doing a Berserker build. This time I don't even have Aspect of Carnage, and every 4 seconds I gain a lot of armor, so I either have 6,500 armor or 14,000 armor without the flasks, and the build still feels extremely squishy. I feel like I'm going insane. Every time I play Berserker it just feels bad, it feels squishy. That just has to be a secret mechanic that just increases the damage you take if you are Berserker. Maybe it is just the Legion still overtuned. I feel like I have more complaints about this build than there are benefits, but it does feel pretty satisfying to be this fast, shoot a lot of projectiles, and then be blinded by them and be unable to see enemy projectiles coming towards you. Like, I'm not even kidding. There are so many spectral throw projectiles that I can't really see anything what's going on the screen. I can see the enemy life bars, but I can't really see what those enemies are doing. And then the Berserker itself, the speed demon, and I wanted it to be as fast as possible. So I went with the Blitz node and the triple Rage node. And while it does make you feel like you gain a lot of power, but once you lose those Rage stacks, once you lose Blitz, you realize how annoying it is to gain those back. And I try to kind of fix this drawback by using Gluttony Belt and using movement abilities to keep my rage stacks up, because if you take the damage, your rage stops degenning, and you want this during annoying phases like Shaper. So I try to belt swap Whirling Blade around while losing life of course and degenning, and then swap the belt back and then fight the Shaper. And I can't remember the last time I had so many issues with the Shaper fight. The playstyle is just very stressful with this. And of course Shaper just doesn't stand, he just goes into the next phase. And bye bye flash charges, bye bye your preparation. I'm getting annoyed even remembering that fight. And I did a bunch of tier 16 guidance and couple Shaper runs, and I could not get a clean Shaper fight. And this actually could be done with the Blade Flurry. I will show in a bit how the passive skill tree would look like and the POB. The Blade Flurry would have a bit less damage, but it would be more consistent. Because with the Spectral Throw, like I said, you have to position yourself perfectly. And one Spectral Throw can hit more than 4 times, but on average it's usually 4 times. And I did try to test this in the plateau map. Those totems are just chilling and fighting each other. So I was able to position myself however I wanted to see what works best. Turns out that with one Spectral Throw an enemy can be hit every 0.3 seconds. Which means if it's traveling slow enough, it can hit at least 2 times on the way forward and at least 2 times on the way backward. And I'm also using Helmet Enchantment to reduce Spectral Throw projectile deceleration. The hitbox of your Spectral Throw is based on half of your weapon range, but the melee weapon range modifiers do not affect it. This can also attribute to more hits, because the bigger hitbox means it's easier to hit more times. And the best range seems to be if you can throw your Spectral Throw slightly behind the enemy and not exactly at the end of your Spectral Throw reach. So I think I mentioned all the drawbacks. I probably should talk about the weapons now. So Vulcanus Daggers in my opinion is really cool because it has unique buffs, unique mechanic. Every 8 seconds you gain Avatar of Fire for 4 seconds, and during that you also get additional physical damage conversion to fire and a lot of global critical strike chance. Also you get up to 100% increased physical damage with hits and ailments against ignited enemies, and up to 100% increased fire damage with hits and ailments against bleeding enemies. But during Avatar of Fire you can only do fire damage and you cannot apply bleed. So the idea is to start attacking enemies near the end of your non-Avatar of Fire phase, apply the bleed, then it rotates into Avatar of Fire, and then you get massive buff. And the cool thing, if you got 2 of those daggers, you get twice the benefits. So you can actually get 200% increased fire damage, 200% increased physical damage, and 400 increased global critical strike chance. Well, actually 480, because Implicit also has critical strike chance. So you can imagine, once you combine that with Berserker speed and crit things, it becomes pretty insane pretty fast. Of course, during non-Avatar of Fire phase, you do lose a lot of damage. So I try to mitigate that by using the conversion gloves into fire and using support gems that would benefit the most both of those phases, like Immolate and faster attacks instead of something else. And I'm using projectile weakness instead of elemental weakness. Projectile weakness also has a knockback, which can work to your advantage because it knocks enemies back and allows more hits with one spectral throw, but it can also knock enemies back outside of your reach, and that can be very frustrating. Of course, big bosses cannot be knocked back, so it's not really an issue with big bosses, but positioning is still gonna be an issue. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the rest of my character, and as always, POB import code will be in the video description if you want to take a deeper look at this. So just to quickly, I am using Star Conjure with the helmet enchantment, live crit chance. Weapons, I got pretty decent rolls for very cheap, like 15 hairs, 20 hairs, since we are not really popular. The amulet from some previous build, you could get something better, but you want elemental damage for attacks on everything you can, I guess. One of the ring, Mark of the Elder, another one can also be better, but I didn't have the exact resistances that I needed, so you just want a shaped ring with elemental damage for attack skills, and you also kind of want to get the total mana cost of skills craft. The mana could be an issue. You can see I consume mana very fast. I do have mana leech and do have mana gain on hit, so while mapping it may not feel that bad, but if you miss couple throws, you can run out of mana very quickly. Then the body armor, like I said, this one can be obtained very cheaply. Item level 100, Sacrificial Garb 6 Link, can be obtained from divination cards, or you can just buy from others already made one for like 30 chaos, maybe even less, or even actually get Elder Body Armor with attacks have increased crit chance, so that would boost DPS even more. Then the gloves with the conversion, because like I said, I need some conversion. Also, these are pretty decent attack speed, fire damage to attacks, and intelligence, so I can drop a couple nodes from the passive skill tree, because otherwise you do need quite a bit of int. The belt, elemental damage of attacks again, life resistances, boots, triple res, and I actually, so for the boots I just wanted life, enough resistances, and I didn't want movement speed, because I wanted to craft the movement speed with the chance to gain onslaught on kill, so I don't need to use Abyss Jewels. You kind of want projectile speed, so you want normal jewels and not Abyss Jewels, and Abyss Jewels cannot roll projectile speed. Jewels with projectile speed, mana gain on hit, and I'm using 2 of the jewels with mana gain on hit for a total of 4 mana gain on hit, and then using 2 jewels with life gain on hit. Also, I'm using Watcher's Eye, but it's not required. Gaining back flash charges when you crit while you have precision. I have Summon Ice Golem for extra accuracy and extra crit. Then Blood Rage, which I actually deactivated from my skill bar because I was just too fast and I don't want extra degen. Berserk, I only started testing it recently. Before that I was using Ancestral Protector for more attack speed, but it wasn't very, I don't know, it just felt clunkier because Protector could die, I would have to stand close enough to him, and just, I don't like losing rage stacks, but if you can kill the boss in 3 seconds, then I guess why not. And then the main links are Spectral Throw linked with actually Quality. Quality does give attack speed as well. Linked with elemental damage of attacks, Combustion, faster attacks, greater multiple projectiles, and Immolate. And I do swap greater multiple projectiles to slower approach for a single target, but it's really annoying. You have to be standing close enough, and you still have to maneuver, so they don't always hit the target at maximum hits. Then, like I said, I was swapping to Gluttony Belt and then Willing Blade to maintain my rage stacks, because if you take damage you stop degenning. Then swapping back, then it's just such a mess. Then what else? I have Herald of Ash, Actually, maybe I should have checked that. Maybe it's not really that efficient anymore. Now with Herald of Ashes still got a bit more DPS. Then I got Precision, high level. I got Flesh and Stone in the sand stance to be defensive, because if enemies are inside this AoE we get blinded, so we are less likely to hit me, and if they are outside this AoE then they do less damage, so it's defensive. Like I said, I have 6,500 armor, which turns into 14,000 during non-avatar of fire phase. By the way, this, when I get covered in ash, this is non-avatar of fire phase, and this is avatar of fire phase, the normal look. This is just when the avatar of fire phase, I guess, expires, and I guess you burn yourself somehow. What else? I got Willing Blades linked to Culling Strike, Fortify, and Blood Magic, because it consumes mana very fast, and I didn't even use faster attacks because I was too fast. Then I got cast damage taken with Molten Shell, higher level, because it also gives quite a bit. Actually, I can even show you how much. Once I get 14,000 armor and click Molten Shell, I gain 3,000 effective life, I guess. What else? What else? I got Wave of Conviction, Curse on Hit, Projectile Weakness. So with Wave of Conviction I apply Fire Exposure, and that's pretty massive boost, and also Curse on Hit. So for the flask I bought the Diamond Flask with the additional crit chance during flask effect. I have Sulfur Flask for curse removal and more damage, and then Wise Oak for more fire pen. If you can balance all resistance, then great. Wise Oak would be the best. Now I do have weapon swap to Chain Hook, and the Chain Hook is linked with Rage Support Gem and faster attacks. Rage Support Gem does not work with ranged attacks, so you can only use it with melee. So with Chain Hook I can ramp up my rage stacks very fast. Then let's see the passive skill tree. Like I said, I got the Blitz and the Rite of Ruins. First I think I got the Crave of Slaughter just to be able to run faster, then Flawless Savagery for flare damage and crit. Then I got the Blitz to be faster, and only from Uberlab I took the Rite of Ruin because it also gives degen. And then the passive skill tree is kind of awkward. As a berserker you kind of have to travel to the right, to the shadow area, but that's fine. There are efficient nodes, like you do need accuracy, and flat evasion gets converted into flat armor later. And these nodes, I travel to these to get the mana leech as soon as possible, and life leech as well. And then just the usual, you get the crit, you get the dagger nodes, you get life, you get jewel sockets, you travel down here. I decided to go with the point blank instead of using point blank support gem, because you don't need to swap to get the damage, you just need to get closer to enemies to get the damage boost. And then since I was here, it was very close to get Iron Reflex. Previously I was using Phase Acro, but it didn't feel good, I just didn't like it. And then I swapped to Iron Reflex and it felt kind of better. And actually you could convert into Blade Flurry. So actually I have the Blade Flurry. So my DPS is 1.2 million, and that's not the full DPS, that's kind of, let's say, on average. Because let's say I have only 30 rage stacks, and I do have Berserk on. So once you activate Berserk, you start, let's say, with 50 rage stacks. Your damage is obviously gonna be higher, but you're gonna be losing rage stacks pretty fast with Spectral Pro, and it hits like 4 times if you position yourself correctly. So that's close to 5 million DPS, but you can switch to Blade Flurry. The passive skill tree would be similar. It wouldn't be the best thing, but if you want Blade Flurry, of course you would not use it for the clear speed because you would have no AoE, but with Blade Flurry it would be pretty consistent damage. You would just, I guess, wouldn't have Iron Reflex, so maybe you would actually want to take Phase Acro again, and with Blade Flurry you would have this amount of damage. No wait, at release, at 6 stages, that's less than 3 million. So you can mess around with this. It just kind of to show that Volcornus is actually not shit. It's just kind of annoying to build around. And I think that's kind of it. Yeah, I think that's gonna be it. I think I mentioned all the important parts. If you got any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. And the next build I haven't decided, but Crit Spectre Zombie build I think is not gonna happen. I tried to play it with it and it just feels bad. It just feels so much worse than just not